afternoon. This is Ian Gonzalez, and tonight I'm going to talk about the king crab and how changes in the environment have affected their living arrangements in the South Antarctic region. But first, I'd like to introduce my brother, who's going to be joining us tonight. He currently attends Canton High School. How are you doing, Lucas?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you, Ian.
And my brother will be asking a few questions periodically throughout this presentation. But first, I'm going to give a little bit of background information. The king crab is also known as the stone crabs. They're classified in the family Lithodidae. There are 121 known species. These crabs are called decapod crustaceans, which mean they have 10 limbs. They are widely considered a source of food. This is mostly because they are large. Their flesh has an enjoyable flavor. Most in particular, the paralithodes, the red king crab, are largely fish. It is widely believed that the king crab has a common ancestor with the hermit crab. This is mostly because of the asymmetry of their body. The king crab is asymmetric in their abdomen, and likewise with the hermit crab, their bodies are asymmetric, mostly for them to fit in their shell dwellings. Now, there are 3 different genuses of king crab.
Where do these 3 different genuses live, Ian?
Well, it varies from genus to genus, like you said. The Glyptolithodes are located in the southern hemisphere. They are mostly located at the Pacific coast of South America, and they have been known to reach up to Southern California. These crabs live at depths of 160 meters to 1,000 meter zone, and commonly live in 4 to 7 degrees Celsius.
Why do they live in such cold environments?
Well, living in such cold environments is beneficial to this particular crab, mostly because there's a high dissolved oxygen content in the water, mostly because it's so cold. The oxygen won't diffuse as readily out of this water. Now, the Glyptolithodes also have a sexual dimorphism. The males have a larger right claw than the left, while the females have comparable sizes and claws on right and left. Additional physical characteristics include their leg span, which is about 1 meter in length, and their meat is a particular value because it is high in protein and low in fat. Now, another genus of king crab would be the lithodes, which are also known as the golden king crab. They're located off the coast of Alaska and live at the seafloor among the corals and sponges. These crabs ranges in size from 5 to 8 pounds and are usually sweeter than the blue king crabs, which I'll mention next, which are the paralithodes. These crabs are located in Alaska as well, particularly near the Bering Strait. There is also a red type of paralithode, which live in the shallow muddier habitats, while the blue crabs live in the deeper gravelly areas. Now that you have a little background, I'm going to discuss a journal article from the journal Polar Biology. The article itself is named Temperature-Driven Biography of the Deep Sea Family Lithodae in the Southern Ocean. This research was conducted by Sally Hall and Sevan Thatte of the University of Southampton School of Ocean and Earth Sciences. Now, the main focus of this study was of the lithodae, which are ectotherms and are located at the higher latitudes of the Southern Ocean near Antarctica, where it is particularly cold. Found in these water locations where the temperature is above 0.5 degrees Celsius. As my brother stated earlier, or asked earlier, why they live in cold environments, there's a limit to how cold they can live in, the waters they can live in. If they live in waters that are lower than 0.5 degrees Celsius, the larva won't successfully develop to maturity, and so approximately around 5 degrees Celsius to 10 degrees Celsius is the optimal growth for these crabs. If it's too cold, they tend to not develop properly. Now, due to global warming, and that was the purpose of the study, to see the effects of global warming, they found that after taking a sample of the population in that area, they found that the Lithodae have now expanded their domains because of the much warmer environment. Now, what they did though was take samples of the populations and analyze them, and found that at lower and lower latitudes, they're finding adolescent crabs and larvae that indicate that reproduction is occurring at the lower latitudes in the colder environments, and this shows that global warming is occurring. Now, this actually presents an environmental problem.
Why would this be bad for the environment?
Well, the reason why this is bad for the environment is they're finding that the Lithodae is a new predator moving into these lower latitudes, and as a result, the local flora and fauna haven't developed a means to protect themselves against this particular crab. So this crab is growing unchecked and killing the organisms in this environment. So so we see that because of the global warming, they're expanding into these new areas. So now I'm going to open it up to a discussion concerning the king crabs. Uh, Lucas, why do you think they live in these cold environments? I mean, being ectotherms, or also known as cold-blooded, they don't produce their own body heat. So it doesn't seem beneficial for them to live at these lower environments. They need to have an adaptation that would allow them to survive in these environments. Why do you think they would live down there at such a low temperature?
I believe earlier on you mentioned that at such a low depth there was a more oxygen-rich environment, and which I believe that they need. It's like a trade-off that they'd rather have more oxygen than the heat or something. Yeah, body temperature. So
that makes a lot of sense. I remember hearing about a specific fish that lives in these very cold waters, and they they can cope in the they don't have a was it a hemoglobin type molecule, or a molecule that can take up oxygen, but because it's so cold they can take in oxygen from the cold environment. So these crabs must benefit from the high oxygen environment that they live in. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the fact that the crabs are now moving out to lower latitudes? What do you think is going to occur? You think that they maybe will start fishing at farther and further south, or do you think that's too cold for us?
um, um, why would it be more cold the further south we go, Ian?
Oh, that's actually a good point. If with global warming, it's going to be much warmer. Well, okay. Think of it this way. Do you think that maybe their domains? It's been said that these crabs go as far north as California, right? Like I said earlier.
Yeah, I think so.
So maybe with the global warming, they won't be able to live this far north. They're pretty much just going to shift their environment completely. So that environment up there is going to suffer because the predators aren't aren't able to consume the crabs, while the new prey in the southern region are going to suffer because they're unprepared for this new coming. Like, what do you think?
If the crabs move south though because of the temperatures, what wouldn't like every other species attempt to as well?
I would agree with you on that one, that we may even see shifts in other areas of the ecosystem, but individuals that live in these very cold environments, they won't have anywhere to go because they can't go further south than, say, the South Pole, right? So they won't have regions cold enough for them to live in. So eventually it's going to be a problem.
Yes, it is.
Thank you for your input again. But so I'm thinking anyway that we're gonna see a large extinction of organisms that are used to these extreme colds, and maybe eventually a decline in these crab species as the temperature rises too high as well. Uh, that's just my thoughts. Is there anything else you want to add on that?
Is it not possible though that they could just adapt over time to the new temperatures and?
They might be able to acclimate to this new environment, sure, but there's a tolerance range for that sort of thing, and in terms of say production of certain enzymes and proteins that will allow them to live in this new environment. We'll also see with the rise in global temperature, the oxygen content in the waters further north is going to decrease because the oxygen is going to escape. So anyway, in answer to your question, yeah, to a certain extent they'll be able to acclimate to this environment, but there's just only so far that they'll be able to go. As we know, evolution is a very slow process, so it's possible that such a development won't occur in time. So, but anyway, thank you for joining me, Lucas. I appreciate you coming down here.
Yeah, man, no problem.
I'll talk to you next time.